Hello and welcome to another episode of Reece's Reviews, the review podcast where we dive into all things entertainment, movies, TV shows, theatre, and we give our honest opinions about it, all from mygeekculture.com.au. My name is Reece and this podcast is named after myself. I am running solo today. The big man Matthew, who usually is my cohort and my Jedi in arms, is off exploring this amazing world and having an adventure, so unfortunately today you just got myself, but hopefully we can give you a great entertaining episode to dive into. Now I've got a few topics on the line for us to go through today and give you my honest opinions about and give you some reviews about, so let's not waste any time and jump into it, shall we? Now I'm going to start off this first topic with a bit of a sad note. As of this recording, anyone in the atmosphere of entertainment would have realized that the great and legendary Terence Stamp recently passed away. He was an absolute icon when it comes to film and television. Anyone who knows of him in the pop culture sphere would know him from the Superman 2 General Zod, bow before Zod. Or you've got the Australian classic Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which he was a standout in as well. So we're just going to take some time and give our respects to Terence Stamp and what he provided to us in the form of entertainment and all things to do with film and what he provided. Now, thinking back on Terence Stamp, I grew up with him with like the odds of Priscilla Queen of the Desert. Now, I have personally haven't seen Priscilla Queen of the Desert. I know. Being an Australian, it's probably not the best thing to say out loud. It is on my list. I probably will watch. It wasn't usually in my atmosphere in a way where it comes to my things I wouldn't usually gravitate towards, but I probably will later on down the track give that film a go. But growing up, Terence Stamp was Jor-El in Smallville. He's just got one of those voices that is very much iconic. Like, you put him in the same kind of category as who would you say who's got a legendary voice? Sean Connery. Should we say Liam Neeson has a legendary voice. You start hearing them talking, you know exactly who they are. So he definitely stands in the test of time. James Earl Jones, there's another one who's Darth Vader. Those voices are just so iconic, and I think Terence Stamp falls in that category as well. He's also in Star Wars Phantom Menace as Chancellor Valorum, who kind of got kicked out of the Senate thanks to Jar Jar Binks. And I think one of the first films I remember thinking of Terence Stamp was growing up was The Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy. He was great in that. He's dipped into comedy with My Boss's Daughter with Ashton Kutcher. He actually went through and did Wanted with a very young, what was his name? James McAvoy, and the Angelina Jolie, then going into another comedy with Yes Man with Jim Carrey. So he's very versatile with his craft, and I just wanted to take some time just to respect the craft that he gave to us, and he's definitely going to be missed. He passed away on August 17th at the age of 87, so just paying him respects to Terence Stamp. Now, going into what is this podcast is about is reviews. So I've got 3 films on my agenda today, so hopefully it won't take us too long to go through them, being running solo. But if you bear with me, we're going to go through a completely different genre of films through this. So there's 3 key ones I want to point out that I've watched recently. And again, you can follow me on my Letterboxd on CashelSkyGuy. You can always keep track of things that I've watched and what I rated and what I thought about the films and things like that. So I always got to start off with new releases first. And I'll slowly go through the back and going through time to go into my classic reviews as we do on this podcast with the latest ones. So the first one off the rank is one that got released here in Australia past week as the recording of this podcast. It came out, it's had an international release quite a few months ago, but it's finally come to Australia. And this film is The Life of Chuck. Now, this film is directed by Mike Flanagan. It is based off a short story done by Stephen King, and it stars Tom Hiddleston. It stars Ejiofor, which I do apologise, sometimes always get a tongue twister when it comes to his name. We also got Karen Gillan, we got the legendary Carl Lumbly, and we also got the absolute legend that is Mark Hamill. So this film kind of, as the title is, is the life of Chuck. So it takes on this chapters of this person's life on 3 kind of stages of his life. So he starts going off from one side and goes into different points. Now, when you're looking at the trailers, it makes this... I think the one thing I would say about this film up front is that the marketing is a bit deceiving. So anyone who walks into this film thinking it's going to be a Tom Hiddleston heavy film, unfortunately will be a little bit disappointed. I would say, to be generous, Tom Hiddleston is maybe in about 15 minutes, maybe 20 at most, in this film. But we're saying that he gives us one of the best dancing scenes that I've seen in a long while, and it's just, you don't know it's coming, and it's not giving anything away. It's shown a little bit in the trailer, and part of the marketing promo for the posters is him dancing. So that's a big story point and a big character part of what this Charles Krenitz character is. He likes dancing, and it's very much not shown in the first act, but when you get into the second act, where you meet the version that Tom Hiddleston plays with him a bit later on in life, and you get a great dancing scene that is very much iconic in a way. Like, it made me, definitely stood out for me watching this scene. You don't know what you're going to be getting from it when it starts out, but then he just starts it, and then when he brings in the crowd and everyone starts ringing around him, it's so fantastic to watch. Because when you first watch the first act of the film, it starts off as a different, like, you think it's going to be a bit of a different switch of genres on the film, because you think this film is going to be very much a heart, kind of tugs on your heartstrings in a way, or it's going to be very much making you think about certain things. And the first act, you don't actually get that. You get more of a sci-fi kind of aspect to it, but when you get into the second and third act, that kind of aspect goes away from when it starts to give the realization as to the purpose behind the story and things like that. So this film is definitely constructed in a way of a short story in a way, because it does have a voiceover narration done brilliantly by Nick Offerman. I think he's getting his calling because he did the Oscars narration and voiceover, I think last year or the year before, and he did it brilliantly. So that was definitely a standout. And I think that's the part of it that some people might be deterred from it, because you don't actually see a lot of voiceover, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, when they kind of tell you certain things about what the character's feeling and it's pretty much bringing you along with the story by telling you what it needs to do with bringing you to exposition sort of thing. So if you're not really liking that aspect, it's going to be a bit of a deterrent, but it's definitely a style that works for this film. It gives you that feel-good feeling. Now, the style also is shot in different ways of, you've got 3 different chapters, like I said. So it starts off with different people portraying Chuck. In the first act of the film, you don't actually see too much of him, which bases this specifically around Karen Gillan's character and Ejiofor's character. Again, I apologize for the butchering of the name. I can't seem to pronounce it very well, but it goes around their characters. When you get towards the end of it, you kind of understand where the style is going, and then you get into the other parts, and so with that point as well. So I think one of the biggest stands out for me in this kind of one is definitely Mark Hamill. He's not in a lot of it, which a lot of the stars in this film don't have a lot of screen time, because they use these stars and their specific characters to serve a purpose to the story. So they don't need to have a certain amount of screen time to get their point across, which is fantastic. And Mark Hamill, I'm not going to give anything away because we don't do spoilers, but there is a scene in this film where Mark Hamill's talking to another character, and it's all about, and he talks about math. Now, that scene was just, I was transfixed. Like, you couldn't take your eyes off the screen just watching this performance and the dialogue and just this performance that Mark Hamill provided with the script, how it was constructed. It was very well put together, and it was just, there's not much more I can say about it, because it was done very beautifully. And the same thing goes, like, there's a point where you've got Chiwetel Ejiofor's and Carl Lumbly's character just walking, and just having a bit of and just having a talk. So this movie, it's all about moments. There's so many beautiful and sweet moments, and it definitely does get you to contemplate life and choices, and makes you ponder different things. And that's where a great film actually leaves its mark, because it definitely gives you that sense of, when you walk away, makes you thinking about different things, and just makes you ponder things, which is fantastic to do. So I would definitely recommend this film. It is definitely one that I don't think it's going to be for everyone. We're saying that it's not going to be a big one for a lot of people. So, but if you understand where the filmmakers are coming from and the performances and where they're trying to educate and trying to make you ponder those questions, I definitely find it's a film that it will leave its mark. Not one you can think you can watch every single year, but one you can definitely revisit every couple of years and just give you that sense of understanding about life choices and contemplate things and just mortality, not much in a sense as well. So I definitely think that if you were to give it a chance, I would think you definitely would find some sort of message out of it, and you get some enjoyment and make you appreciate certain things. So if you ever get a chance to go see, please do so. If you went to streaming, I would say give it a go. Try not to be too distracted. Put the phones down and just you get the film on its own merit and just watch it and experience what this film has to offer. So that is The Life of Chuck. Now, I gave this film 4 stars and a like on my Letterboxd, so it didn't breach the 5 mark at the moment. There's not many films that can breach the 5 mark for me, but this film would bring up that 4 stars minimum for me. So it was a great film to experience. So that is The Life of Chuck. Okay, so now going into the next one. Now this one is going to be a bit of a change of pace from my usual reviews over these last couple of weeks or last couple of episodes we've had. Now a lot of people are going to be, I don't know, they're going to be, I would say, if you do know me personally, you probably won't be surprised, but if you don't know me, which, let's just face it, this film has a certain place. I haven't seen it before, but I only recently watched it. Now, I have a soft spot for my nostalgia growing up and in relation to certain Disney films and about certain Disney originals. So I thought with having that essence of me growing up on the likes of High School Musical and Camp Rock and having that Disney era, I thought I would give a go one of the latest versions of a Disney original TV film and give it a go. And I'm talking, of course, of Zombies. Now, the latest one of this franchise recently came out, Zombies 4 on Disney+. So I just thought I'll give it a go and just see what it's like and how it fares up against High School Musical, Camp Rock, and just other kind of Disney original kind of films in that aspect. So I thought I'd give it a go. So this film is directed by Paul Hohen, and it stars Milo Manum as Zed and Meg Donnelly as Addison. Now, pretty much the story basically of this is that you just got this town where all these zombies live, and big plant big chemical disaster happens at a plant and turns some people into zombies, and then you got other people who are still human, and kind of the whole very basic storyline of bringing of acceptance of people who are different to you and trying to mingle these two communities together. So it's very basic story, very nothing too original due to the fact of what ideas of High School Musical, Descendants, and Camp Rock would provided, but it does its own little spin on it when it comes to delving into a little bit of the supernatural when it comes to zombies and mingling with humans. So I thought I'd give it a go. Now I thought it was very sweet film. I found it was very stereotypical, designed for a certain audience of the young adult flavor. I found that the choreography was well done. Some of the songs, I would say at least 1 or 2 of the songs were catchy and kind of quite nice to listen to, and definitely ones you can actually kind of bob along to and actually download. I wouldn't say the entire soundtrack is fantastic, because there was a few of the songs I just thought, yep, okay, they're just telling the story and the next point in relation to that. So I found that one was kind of good. So the young cast does its job. They bring youthfulness to the story. They lead into breaking the fourth wall in this film. where you got the titular characters actually talking to the camera, talking to you about certain plot points and things like that, which is very different towards other original films, which is a bit of a change. Didn't mind it because they didn't use it too much, which I think if they delved into that a little bit more, so it probably wouldn't have been as, you wouldn't actually like it as much because they were talking too much to you, which is kind of nice to, I would say, nice to see that they didn't do that. But other than that, like, I found it was a nice, easy watching film. Very much got its point across with bringing people together, accepting yourselves, accepting that you are different and that it's okay to be different, and then pretty much getting people to come together and accepting that we can be friends and we can bring things together, which is very stereotypical Disney, and it is a beautiful message to be brought out. So I thought it was a great kind of cool film to sit down and watch, and I got some enjoyment out of it. And like I said, I love my musicals, and I love bringing the original side of things into it with the choreography and things like that, which was great to see. I thought Milo and Meg did a great job being the leads in it and just bringing that youthfulness, like I said previously, to it. So I don't think they could do too much else with this film because of the nature of it, and it spawned the franchise. Like I said, number 4 just came out, so I'll definitely be checking out number 2, and if I like number 2, then I'll go in and watch number 3 and number 4. So wouldn't be a big review on this one, but I definitely I found it enjoyable. Would I watch it again? I could probably see, maybe in a number of years, I could see myself sitting down and rewatching it again for certain points and some of the songs, but not something I'll be racing back to seeing again. But you can definitely sit down and watch it with young ones and things like that. There are certain stereotypical characters in it when it comes to certain of the cheerleaders and things like that. So the Bucky character was very stereotypical Disney and the villain sort of things. I kind of found him a little bit annoying at certain points, and so but that's just of the time and the audience that this film is targeted towards. So other than that, I found it was a nice and enjoyable film, and I gave it a 3.5 stars. So it got a pass for me. So I gave it a thumbs up, and it was good and it was enjoyable. So that's just what I liked. So that's pretty good. Alrighty, now we're going into my last one of my reviews here. Now, this one is going into the classic era. Now, I'm going back in time to 1973. And I'm going to be talking about an absolute legend that is still talked about to this day. Not just about his filmography, but his craft. I'm talking about Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. Now, I haven't seen this film before, even though I'm a big Bruce Lee fan about his... Not much about it, because I haven't seen any of his films, but I was more a fan of the art of martial arts that he gave us, and just being able to push the limits and bring all these different styles of martial arts together. I felt it was fantastic, and recently we're watching the Ip Man series with Donnie Yen, and about Bruce Lee's teacher, just got me more infatuated with the art that Bruce Lee provided when it comes to his martial arts. So I thought, why not try and delve back into the classics that I'm doing with this podcast and delve into one of the last films that Bruce Lee did. This was his second last film he did before he passed away. So like I said, this film is made in 1973, directed by Robert Klaus, and it pretty much tells the story about a Bruce Lee's character, a martial artist who travels to an island to spy on a PM lord. He pretty much is like a drug lord or kind of a big oppression kind of a lord. He's sent there by a government agency to go undercover to kind of overthrow and kind of expose this organization that this overlord on this island is formatting and things like that. And what he does is, this lord on this island puts on a tournament every 4 years, and he brings together all these big, massive, big professional fighters to fight and become crowned the best of the best. And Bruce Lee goes along to this and goes undercover, and it's a very stereotypical, basic story, but it is definitely a film for its time. Like, I haven't experienced a film like this before, where you've got the very over-exaggerated martial arts big cries out that Bruce Lee's known for, the Kia! like those big things that he's known for. So I wasn't like I knew I was expecting that going into it, but watching it as it unfolded was it was entertaining because I'm putting myself. I took myself out of the mindset of 2025 brain of martial arts and what I've seen of late, and putting myself into this is 1973, different style of filmmaking, different style of choreography. So you definitely can see that it is choreographed, it is staged, but you can see that the pace and the quickness that Bruce Lee has is definitely evident within the fighting styles that you have there. So it's definitely one that opened my eyes to it, and you definitely got certain things like you got John Saxon's Roper in it, and you can see he's definitely a martial artist because you can see when he fights in certain scenes, you can see it there. But then you got Bruce Lee. There's certain scenes where he gets into the jail and he's taking on these different henchmen and he's taking on weapons, and he brings in things like nunchucks towards the end with the big battle scene and things like that. So it's definitely, you can see that Bruce is the legend that he is, and going through from that. So I actually quite enjoyed the experience that this film provided to me, and just putting myself back into that classic mindset was actually a refreshing side of things. Now, this film is rated R18 in Australia, is an Australian rating. Now, I don't think the film warrants it, but for a time, I would think that it would probably be warranted because of the certain, like, what would be the right word for it? Would probably be the certain, what's the word I'll be looking for? I think I got my goal stopped by now for that, but I think just the certain topics that the film covers, and certain things, and the certain things about when it comes to showing skin, when it comes to the opposite sex and things like that. I think that's where it brings in the R rating. I think it's something to do with, they said it's violence, but you don't see too much violence when it comes to the fake kind of blood, but it's 1973 kind of effect, so you don't see too much of it as well. So I found that it was very much probably being warranted on R18, but I can understand for its time it probably definitely would be. Now, I think that anyone who enjoys the genre that is the martial arts genre, this is a rite of passage. Like, you need to sit down and watch the Bruce Lee filmography and just go through some of them. And Enter the Dragon is definitely on that list of things to watch. It's one of his last films he did, and I think it's definitely one that should be experienced for anyone who's into that genre and appreciates the classic and what this film adds to the cinema industry when it comes to the martial arts, and what Bruce Lee provided and contributed to that aspect as well. So I found that it was definitely, like, there were certain scopes and certain shots of this film. We can definitely feel that the budget was pretty big for its time because of the star that Bruce Lee was and how much he attracted to a Western audience at this point. I found it was very well done on a global scale, I found it was very well made as well. So going on from there, I found it was so good to see how things have evolved from this era, and you can see that within this film that you've got things that he's done and certain styles that he's done with martial arts and certain filmmaking techniques have been not just replicated but improved upon. This was the foundation that Bruce Lee provided, and the foundation was laid with Bruce, and it has been brought on to even today's films like John Wick. And because you've got certain things like the director of John Wick was friends with Bruce Lee's son Brandon and doubled him in The Crow, which I actually didn't find out until I watched the John Wick is Pain documentary on that, which I didn't actually know that when Bruce Lee unfortunately passed away on set, that the director of John Wick came in, and those scenes that that we all know that had to be filmed out and had film completed and put doubles in, that was the director of John Wick, which was eye-opening for that point. So just a full circle moment, that the fact of the foundation that Bruce Lee made, not just with this film Enter the Dragon, but other films in his entire filmography, and just his ability as a martial artist, was then paved the way for his son to do certain things and in this filmography in The Crow, and then go on to laying the groundwork for all the martial arts films moving forward and then inspiring Jackie Chan and Donnie Yang and Jet Li and all these amazing martial artists have all spawned because of the fascination and the idolization of Bruce Lee. So I appreciated this film so wholeheartedly for what opening up my repertoire and my eyes to the filmography of Jet Li, not Jet Li, with Bruce Lee, and just going into his time now. So I'm now into a experience now. I'm going to go in and trying to dig up some more of Bruce Lee's films and watch them down the track. And if you are interested in my reviews on certain Bruce Lee's films, please make a comment send us a message at mygeekculture.com.au. And I think, we'll get the awesome producer Maddie Fulton to insert the where we can make messages and things like that. But please send us your messages if you got any recommendations for Bruce Lee or any martial arts films that you think that I might be interested with. Saying that I am a big fan of John Wick, I'm a big fan of the Ip Man franchise, and a lot of if it's those kind of styles and showcasing those kind of martial artists like Jet and Donnie and things like that, then please send us your recommendations, and we'll put them on our list of things to watch and then review on this podcast. So overall, even though what I've just said about it, I still rated it 3 stars. I couldn't give it a 5 stars because of the nature of certain of the film way the cinematography was done and certain direction styles and editing, but it definitely still gives it a thumbs up because of my appreciation and my love for film and what this film stands in when it comes to the history of the Academy and things like that. So overall, 3 stars, great film to watch. I don't think I will sit down and rewatch it again anytime soon, but I could definitely revisit in a number of years' time after I've gone through my exploration of everything else that Bruce Lee has done as late. So that is Enter the Dragon. Alrighty, so my last thing on my agenda is I'm going to change things up here and start talking about a TV series, which we haven't done on this podcast before. And I'm not doing a full season review. I'm only doing a few at the moment, because as of this time, as this podcast has been recorded, only 2 episodes have been released, and I'm talking about Alien Earth. Now, this is a prequel series to Alien, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the franchise of Alien. I'm a big fan of the franchise of what they provide. So I'm a big fan of the Predator franchise, the Alien franchise. So delving into how much into this series was definitely something that's on my radar, and picking up how great Alien Romulus was a couple of years ago. I was so keen to see where they can go for this, and I can say after watching the first 2 episodes, it did not disappoint. Having a great cast was absolutely incredible. Like, you're having Timothy Olyphant in there, and you got, I think the standout for me is definitely Sydney Chandler as Wendy. She's very intriguing, and the good thing is this series is showing very much at the moment. It feels not much like Aliens, but Alien, like the first one. It's definitely giving that sci-fi kind of horror film feel to it, and then it dashes in some of the action when it comes to the horror aspects, when it comes to the xenomorphs coming in and certain things like that. So I definitely found it is fantastic when it comes to the cinematography and the scope and where it's placed in the timeline of Aliens and things like that. So I found that these first 2 episodes was definitely well done. Now, due to the fact that this is a streaming show, it's already been out. I can probably go into a couple of spoilers and aspects for it. So just seeing a certain scene where they're in the ship, and then you've got a bunch of, I don't know, these people the whole premise of what I'm talking about is the ship crashes, land downing, you're sending Wendy and these kids off who are they've been changing their subconscious and putting into these new bodies which are enhanced. So they're going on to this, trying to rescue certain things, and Wendy's trying to go save her brother, and then you're going into this ship, and there's certain scenes where they're trying to go through, and then they're trying to knock on, you just see certain aspects where they've shot certain things where you got looking at the main characters, and then right behind them you just see the xenomorph pictured, and then you can see it slowly moving, which it was so creepy and so honored of what the old Alien did. It's certain ways of shot the cameras and where the ways the xenomorph's done, and the fact that it's all done practical was done very, very well. So I won't stand too much on it. I found the first 2 episodes fantastic. Definitely going to give it another shot with the rest of the episodes. There's 8 episodes in this series, so we've got 6 episodes to go, and I cannot wait to see what this series unfolds. So I probably will go into more detail on this series as we wrap up the series. When all episodes get released, I'll probably go into more detail and probably get Matthew's opinion on it if he ends up watching this series. And then we'll probably go into a lot more detail, but I just wanted to spend the last couple of minutes on this episode just to say I watched the first episode of Alien Earth. I gave it a big thumbs up. I'm liking all the characters. I'm liking the atmosphere. I'm liking the cinematography that they've made for this, and just loving to seeing what they've done so far and expanding the world and actually giving more context as to what humans were contributing to the xenomorphs, and the fact that they were around, the humans knew about the xenomorphs before we get to the events of Alien and Ripley and things like that. So intriguing to watch and just seeing where this is going to unfold. So let's gear ourselves open and go forward to see what we are going to get with Alien Earth. Okay, so that does it for another episode of Reece's Reviews. Thank you very, very much for coming on this journey with me on this solo episode. Please leave your comments on Spotify, leave your comments on Apple iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube and things like that. Please leave your comments to see how I did. There might be some episodes in the future that might be running solo, so if you think I did a good job, please let me know. If not, give it to yourself. With that being said and done, I appreciate your time. Have a great day and night, and as always, may the Force be with you.